Welcome back, duelists, and thank you for surviving Spooktober. I know that got a little weird at the end. I got a little drained doing those last few videos. I apologize for that. I had a little bit of rest, and it's time to start amping up for the Battle City box. It's going to be coming out, I believe that's December, so I'm going to try to get you guys 2 speed duel decks every week till then. So I think that's about 6 weeks, so 12 decks. So I asked I asked around to my friends. I was like, guys, what do you think I should build? They're like, well, what do you feel the most comfortable with? And I was like, well, I already did Restrict. I already did Blue Eyes White Dragon. They were like, well, you said this always reminds you of how you was when you started to play. And I was like, well, yeah. They were like, you remember you used to run around Gravekeepers all the time. And I was like, Gravekeepers, you're right. So today's profile is going to be a Gravekeeper build. Real quick, we're going to be using the skill card, Tomb of the Pharaoh. To continue our deck, we're going to have 2 copies Gravekeeper Ambusher. We're going to be utilizing 3 copies Gravekeeper's Assailant, 1 Gravekeeper's Chief, 2 copies Oracle, Hidden Boss Monster here, the single copy of Recruiter, and a single copy of Shaman. Off to the spells, we're going to be using 2 Allures of Darkness. We're going to be using 2 copies Hidden Temples of Necrovalley. And for our traps, yeah, that's right, this isn't the main game. Traps are totally in style. We're going to be using 2 copies Adhesion Trap Hole, 2 copies Magician's Circle, and to round it out, 2 copies Rite of Spirit. Now you'll see that I have an extra deck here, and this just keeps going on to the same thing. It's just a bluff, guys. With Waking the Dragons in the meta, it's kind of silly not to make your opponent think that maybe you have that back row. Now, before I go over my choices, and I know that that's not going to take very long at all, if this content is helpful or if you enjoy it, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. And if there's a deck maybe that you guys do want to see, use that comment section down there. A lot of you guys, the last couple of months, really been carrying on the conversation with me, and I really appreciate that. It's helped. I've had some decks that I probably wouldn't have built otherwise. And it's always fun when you guys challenge me. But if you were just here for the deck list, you guys are dismissed. You guys have a great day. Let's talk about this. So Tomb of the Pharaoh as a skill card is going to be one of the field spell skill cards in the speed duels, which means it's watered down. So rather than being the original Necrovalley effect with a paragraph long, all this is going to do is, hey, this is Necrovalley, and all monsters that are Gravekeepers get a 200 attack and defense as opposed to the 500 attack and defense buff. But it's still good. It will still go and deploy off into like the field spell area, so that'll be over there. Let's get into our monsters. We're going to be using the Ambusher primarily for stats. It will be the strongest hand summon as a 17 on the 4-star. When this card is flipped up, you can target a card in your opponent's graveyard, place that at the bottom of their deck. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard after being flipped face up, you can target a Necrovalley card in your graveyard and add that target to your hand. These effects are unaffected by Necrovalley. The only issue I have with this is we don't have a real field spell, so there will be no recycling the skill because I don't think that's how that works. And that really just leaves us with the Hidden Temples, I think. So I just put them in here for stats. Assailant, best effect in original Gravekeepers. When this declares an attack while Necrovalley is on the field, boom, there it is. You can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, change that target's battle position. So it's able to take on much stronger cards than itself, albeit it will not be at the original 2K stat that it used to hit at. It'll be at 17, but that's still fine because a lot of things have pretty lucktastic defense anymore. I mean, if you guys remember my zombie build, zombies didn't have too much defense going on, and smaller cards are easier to hit, or if you develop a boss monster and you attack something smaller, I don't have to change my attack target. There will be a potential 3 options for me to switch, so I can attack center and change off-center battle position. So Gravekeeper Assailant, still worth playing. Chief, I run it in a single. Back in the day when I used to run 2 of this, they would clump in my hand and I would be just dead in the water with it. However, if you do get this, when you tribute summon for this guy, you will resurrect one Gravekeeper monster in the graveyard. The other additional ability that like really hurts this card is you can only control one face-up copy of this character at a time, so it was just easier to put him to one. For our like big boss, big bad for this deck, we're going to be using the Gravekeeper's Oracle, which is amazing. And again, with Battle City releasing the God cards, nice to see them making an appearance here early. Now, if we read this effect, you can either tribute 3 monsters to play this, or a single monster if it's a Gravekeeper's monster. And if this card is tribute summoned, you can activate any of the following effects and resolve them in sequence up to the number of Gravekeepers that were tributed for the summon. My only issue with this is I wish I could do 2, not just a full 1 or a full 3. Those effects are: this card gains attack equal to the combined levels that all monsters tributed for this had on the field times 100. And notice it does not say till the end of the turn. So again, if we did Chief by himself, that's a 500. It puts him at 25, 27 with our field spell. That's not terrible. You can destroy all set monsters your opponent controls, literally breaking through a defensive board. Or all monsters your opponent currently controls lose 2,000 attack and defense. Also note, not till the end of the turn. This will allow you to break through boss level cards. And again, I'm playing him at 2 because what if I tribute 1 for the other? He is 10 stars, right? 3, 6, 9, 10. So that's 1,000. It'd be 3K, 32. That's not bad. That's good stuff. I like it. Moving on real quick to Recruiter. Everybody should know this guy by now. If this is sent to your graveyard, and now notice it says card you control, so it has to be field to graveyard. Add a Gravekeeper's monster with 1,500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. Real quick, Spy and Guard not being in the game, or not just being good choices right now. 0 defense, 15 defense, 12 defense, 15 defense, 15 defense, 15 defense. Everything is searchable in the deck due to the 1 Recruiter. And again, I only want to run the single. So, awesome. And Shaman here. Gain 200 defense points for each Gravekeeper's monster in the graveyard. Negate all monster effects that activate in the graveyard except for those that are Gravekeeper monsters. And while Necrovalley is on the field, your opponent cannot activate field spell cards, and field spell cards cannot be destroyed by the opponent's card effects. She is our one and only real protection for the tomb. However, I'm going to show you how to get her out real quick, and it's not by summoning. So just keep with me. Allure Darkness, basic draw. Since Commandant's not in this version of the game, we're only running Dark Gravekeepers, so there's never really a dead time unless you just didn't have any monsters in your hand. Hidden Temples is going to do some great things for you. Activate this only if you have a Gravekeeper's monster, and of course Necrovalley on the field. Neither player can special summon monsters except for Gravekeeper's monsters, and if either a Gravekeeper's monster or Necrovalley would no longer be on the field, destroy this card. So this will help us shut down the Thousand Eyes Restrict, Tunes, Dragon Caller can't perform its effects. There's a lot that this card stops. I believe this will also stop a Lava Golem from my opponent's side of the field, the way that my Merrick deck played, because it should stop the intent to special summon, because at the time that you are attempting to special summon that card to my side of the field, I would have both the field spell and the monster. So Hidden Temple, very good. 2 for consistency, 3 is too many. Going to the traps, Adhesion Trap Hole. Again, we're not getting the full Valley bonus or boost, or bonus if you want my fake words. So Adhesion Trap Hole being able to have the attack power of monster or monsters summoned at the same time from your opponent's side of the field, very good. Very essential against decks like Dragon Caller that want to play out a big character or 2 at the same time. And again, just all around pretty good, low card count in the meta right now. So cards like this are going to pull more weight than they should. 2 for consistency. Magician's Circle is our amazing tech. Again, this is going to let us summon any additional Gravekeeper in the deck. So when a spellcaster declares an attack, each player special summons a spellcaster monster with 2,000 or less attack power from their deck in attack position. Now, when I did this the first time round, this came out of a Game Boy game or something, and they were, I don't know, $10, $15 a pop. And I did take these to regionals, and Tsukuyomi was a big deal back then, and so was Magician of Faith. And I don't think they were allowed to select Tsukuyomi because of the wording. So if that was their only option, then they did. But more often than not, I got my opponents to waste out their Magicians of Faith. Now, in speed duels, you may not always be playing up against another spellcaster, obviously, but this would allow you to freely summon an oracle or get a chief and help push for more game, or it helps you get an assailant to help you deal with an opponent's strong monster that needs to just be position changed. And you would also be able to summon out Shaman this way. And if you summon out Shaman this way, without ever having to tribute for her, you will be able to protect your field spell. So especially if you went into your hidden temples before battle phase, it's great. And again, I went for 2 for consistency because it's just really good. The last one would be the Rite of Spirit. This is pretty easy. This is just Monster Reborn for a Gravekeeper's monster in your discard pile. And it's unaffected by Necrovalley because back in the day, it had to say that. All the cards that dealt with them had to say that. Chief said it. This said it. I think even Gravekeeper Steel says it. But again, it's just a quick Monster Reborn, so if you need to get that extra card to get the tribute for the Oracle, or maybe your opponent did break the Shaman, you could bring back the Shaman in defense mode, start stacking up those defense point bonuses, and while still maintaining your hidden temples. It's very fun. It does remind me of back when I started playing. And again, same thing. Like, we used to carry around, I know Magical Scientist used to be a big deal. Instant Fusion, not so much back then. And I want to say it was Metamorphosis. So a lot of us carried around extra decks, or fusion decks as they were called back then. And I'm just keeping that trend going again, because Waking the Dragon is such a good card. You want to play that little head game with the opponent every time. So I'm glad that you guys did watch this. I hope this helps. Again, maybe consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And you guys have a great day. I'll see you next video.